Hi there, I'm Danny Henderson. Welcome back to my full disclosure, beautiful broadcasting station here on YouTube. Now, I want to give you a graphic warning. Graphic warning. We're going into some very deep, dark areas today. We're going to discuss the life of this beautiful lady. Get your children out of the room or put your headphones on or watch this later. You have been warned. My new friend on the screen is an amazing person with an amazing life to share. I saw her the other week on a reel, and I was so blown away by her frequency, her tone, her everything about her. And I looked her up immediately and researched her. And then I reached out on her website and she responded to me. And then I was flicking around. I went onto my friend Sean Atwood's channel and there she was. So she's doing the round. So it's all divine orchestration. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the one, the only, Dr. Juliette Engel. Welcome, Dr. Juliette. It's lovely to have you.
Oh, thank you, Danny. It's nice to be here.
So, we're going to get straight into your childhood. You are going to take us on your journey and take your time, as much time as you need, and just start from where you grew up, and how you grew up, please. And thank you.
Well, I hope that didn't show up backwards,
It
but
does.
it does
Yeah,
backwards.
yeah, that's
Uh,
okay. It says
I'm sorry.
Sparky. Mine's coming on the 15th. I can't wait. Well, I say I can't wait. I'm looking forward to reading it. It's taken eight.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good. Because
of course.
there's a lot more in there. What Sparky is I should say that when I was 6 years old, I was sold by my father into the MK Ultra program. And the MK Ultra program is government sponsored mind control, but MK does not stand for mind control. MK stands for Mind Kampf, and uh, the mind control programs that were started in the United States, Great Britain, and Russia simultaneously after the Second World War are all based on the research that was done by the Nazi scientists in the concentration camps. In fact, those three countries divided up the Nazi scientists and took them home. I don't know how many went to each, but I know that well over 10,000 came to the United States in various capacities. I believe that over 1,000 were responsible for doing the child abuse and mind control experiments on unwitting victims in the German concentration camps came to the United States. I also subsequently I spent 20 years working in Russia, which is another part of my life. But I met um, German scientists who'd been taken to Russia and were basically turned loose in the children's prisons, where they did the same thing, and the result became the Russian mafia, and that's one of my books. So anyway, pulling way back, I was born in 1949. The CIA was born in 1947. The MK Ultra program was created in 1953 by our Secretary of State and head of the CIA. And my uncle was one of the founders of the NSA, the National Security Agency, and he went on to set up GCHQ in Great Britain and uh, worked to develop the Five Eyes network throughout Europe and spreading the MK Ultra program. So when I was 6 years old in 1955, uh, the program started bringing in children of who they considered future leaders of the United States. Uh, because of my connection to my uncle, I was sold into the program. And the selling was a ceremony in which I was taken to a location where I was pressed down on face down on a uh, black, smelly, satiny sheet and forced to watch my father take money for me. And then he watched while I was raped. And as I was screaming for him to help me, he turned to me, looked at me, and said, "This is what I raised you for."
Oh my God.
Yeah, and of all the things of my childhood that I subsequently forgot, I never forgot that
Oh, Juliet.
because that was a life or death moment. I could have given up right there, but I decided to fight it.
Mm,
And I realized that I'd already given up on my mother. I can't to this day remember my mother. But when my father did that, I realized I was completely alone, and um, and that I had been sold by my family collectively. I knew that my uncle was largely responsible for this, and I knew that my grandfather and all of his brothers had all been in. I didn't know then, but I know now that they were all at Nuremberg together. There were six of them there, and they were largely responsible for bringing the Nazi scientists into the United States and shipping them to Huntsville, Alabama, and then helping them relocate and get new identities around the United States, for which they received lavish gifts, uh, beautiful portraits, and my one of my uncles got a full dress SS uniform, gorgeous thing. Um, anyway,
well,
I don't,
That's so much. That's so much to absorb, like immediately. So you're saying that there are six members at least of your family, all bloodline family, assuming, that were part
Mhm,
of the Nuremberg trials, that were
mhm,
also then part of Project Paperclip, which
mhm.
dispersed. And we heard that some of these Nazis that didn't stand trial but should have went to other areas like Argentina and Brazil and Antarctica. What is your understanding of that?
Well, the ones that had worked in the mind control programs, the ones that the U.S., British, and Russian intelligence wanted to keep, they were divided up and sent to the U.S. You received an allotment of them. They're still there doing their work in Great Britain, and an allotment went to Russia that and I don't have numbers or anything like that, but I'm confident that based on the numbers of programs that were then started in the United States, and from now on I'll focus on the United States, um, based on the number of projects that were started in 1953, uh, there were at least 1,500 scientists, and they manned the programs around the country. They were set up in sites around the United States called annexes or safe houses. And this is all documented now because 6 months ago, um, on December 23rd, 2024, the National Security Archive released a 1,200 page document compendium and a 40-page summary of MK Ultra, of who did it, when they did it, how it was founded, where they had annexes, which they called CIA safe houses, what was done, um, and I gave Danny the link, and it should be in the show notes. You can look up this document. This relates to the United States, but this also relates to the United Kingdom, and you can look at what they did, how they did it, um, and at that time, the Dulles brothers. We had two evil men, Alan Dulles, who was head of the CIA, and John Foster Dulles, who was head of who became the Secretary of State, who supervised all of this. And even though MK Ultra was a completely illegal program, it received unlimited black budget funding and has ever since. And it operated illegally since 1953, at which time they appointed the head of the MK Ultra program was Sidney Gottlieb. And Sidney Gottlieb, during the war, had been head of the CIA Technical Services Division, which developed bioweapons. And he was known as the chief poisoner of the CIA. And so they invited him right in to start experimenting on children in Project Monarch. in MK Ultra, and during the during the war, the Dulles brothers had been in Switzerland where they'd formed an alliance with Eli Lilly, pharmaceutical company, and the Eli Lilly provided the MK Ultra program with unlimited supplies of LSD in the tonnage. And this is in the documents. I'm not making this up. You can read this yourself. They provided tons of LSD because they wanted to develop uh, neurotropic uh, drugs, antipsychotic, mind control drugs, which could be dispersed nationally, globally, to create a compliant population. And they knew that LSD had anti-anxiety and it actually has antipsychotic properties in certain combinations. So large scale research was begun to create all the what they call the SSRI drugs that are causing severe behavioral abnormalities now in thousands of children around the world. Those were all developed from LSD, and the big one for the United States was Prozac.
Uh-huh.
So that came right out of the MK Ultra mind control programs. The patent is run out now, and it has another name now, which
Names. May I ask you, what was going back to these monsters in your family who were part of the Project Paperclip and the workings of this? What nationality are these people, and what is the family name?
well, the nationality. Well, they're American. That's their nationality. Their
Okay.
descent is from von Egmonds, Plantagenets, Capet, uh, uh, a whole series of Scottish names. Um, and it all goes back to the Rurikid emperors of Russia who populated the royal houses of Europe in 1,000 years ago. So 900 to 1,000, the Rurikids created the Russian Empire, and they were located in Kiev, and they ruled in Russia for 1,000 years successfully, and they were very inbred. So all those royal houses that became the familiar bloodline names intermarried and only intermarried each other, and the Rurikids only married each other. So the head of that line was Saint Olga of Kiev, who's my 32nd great grandmother, and her descendants only intermarried with each other, and it led to several generations of totally degenerate idiots, and that's basically what happened to that line. It wasn't ever defeated; it just idioted itself out,
You know,
and then the Romanovs took over.
oh my God, I love talking about the Romanovs. You are so fascinating. I knew this was going to be heavy, but really important to break things down because there's pieces missing as people come forward and they share their testimonies because we've got to look back at the back history and the fact that these bloodlines, these long-term bloodlines, they're inbreeding, keeping their bloodline pure, or so they thought. But what that does, it degenerates the brain, the frontal lobotomy. It creates a lack of compassion, empathy. It creates the degeneration of feeling. So then you're breeding psychopaths,
Mhm.
untold
Yes.
psychopathy and just schizoid, awful behaviors, right?
Yes, like MK Ultra. I mean, that's a schizoid, awful behavior, and they took the children, the bloodline children, and they were basically training us to be like their army, their frontline army. So they wanted to take the souls out of the what remained of the souls in the bloodline children, and I think they were quite successful in many ways because. So I went in 1953. I was in the program until 1966 when I escaped and started my own life completely on my own at the age of 17. Put myself through college, medical school, um, and then took off from there. And then at the age of 30, started remembering these things. But now I forgot what I was going to say.
That's all right. All right.
I went this way instead of that way.
Yeah, well, it's all right. There's so much to you. There's so much that you've dedicated your life to, and you're working so hard. I mean, I can't even keep up with the amount of information that you sent me over the last few days, and now being on your newsletter and getting, you know, but again, it's important that as we come to know who Dr. Juliette Engel is, it's important that obviously we focus on, your childhood, what created you, the woman today. Now, you mentioned the ceremony at 6 years old. You mentioned that you don't even remember your mother. But what was life at home? Did you have brothers and sisters? Were there carers? Like, what was the home life? What's your earliest memories?
Well, half of the time I grew up in MK Ultra annexes. The other half of the time, or I assume roughly half the time, I was with my biological family. Um, I focused on school. Um, I'm reluctant to talk about my family because they're still alive, and some of them. And for me, it was we were constantly moving because I would come home after 6 months in a MK Ultra program, and they would have done the chrome extractions. I'd have big black circles and be very anemic. I was always the only health problem I had as a child was chronic anemia, which they couldn't explain, but I can explain it. They were taking my blood all the time. So I was a child blood farm. What else they did to me? Uh, I, I can't explain scientifically, but it was 6 months of abuse. Then I'd come home, and my parents would stick me in school, and the school would go, "Oh my God, what's happening to this child?" And at that time, the school was on my side. It's not true anymore. I think that this the object of many of the MK Ultra programs was to take over the schools, and the schools were constantly interfering with them. One of the advantages of being one of the first into the MK Ultra program is that when I went in, it was only 2 years old. So the people running it they all had German accents. They were speaking German. My family spoke German. When they were around members of my family, they'd all be speaking German. But and they were just beginning to plan their experiments and laying things out. So I was like, I was seeing that, now that there's 300,000 people in the program, they don't get to see anything, and things are coming largely electronic. But I met the early people, and I have some memories of my uncle taking me to meet with the organizers of MK Ultra. It was when I was like 5 years old. I can't interpret that except that they were all speaking German. And so I'm trying very hard to always, when something is huge and is infecting the entire population, it started somewhere. And you really, if you're going to cure this mind control insanity that has sort of like moved into our population, you have to look at where it originated. And I would say that it started in 1953 when they started the mind control programs, started giving people the LSD drugs, put fluoride in the water, started a lot of these programs that were completely unapproved. But it was a kind of a lawless time, and it was a group of people who because they were bloodlines and because they'd gotten a hold, they'd all been together in Nuremberg, and they'd gotten a hold of these documents and original research that had been done by the Germans since the beginning of the 20th century. They'd been doing these experiments and looking for these secrets of this and the secrets of that, and the demonic formulas and the acts, how to go through portals, go extra dimensionally. Um, all of these things, they had like free reign in Nuremberg to all of this material. They were all German speakers, fluent readers. So I mean, it was like this club that formed, and and the British were there, and the Russians were there. So uh, I think you could probably boil it down to 12 evil men who just got into the candy box, with these experiments, and thanks to Eli Lilly, had unlimited access to LSD, which the general population didn't. Um, so they're busy hallucinating away in Nuremberg with the German scientists who are promising them, oh, space travel, and you can go through portals, and you can call uh, uh, spaceships and aliens and talk across dimensions, and you can travel through space and time. Uh, so they brought it with them. They put their children in the program to train us to do that. And the trouble was they were all psychotic and cruel, psychotic, psychopathic, abusive um, monsters. And basically, they created an army of abusive, psychotic, psychopathic monsters who now run our government to a large extent, and um, are have no moral compass and aren't ever going to develop one because it was almost surgically removed from them when they were children. And this was done deliberately by the 12 evil men. And as the senior guys died off, the program just has sort of drifted off on its own. Um, so when people say, "Well, what is the point of all this?" I personally, I think they may have had a point in the beginning, but I don't think there's any point to it. I do not see um, that there is a purpose that benefits any entity to destroying the world we live in, which is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, let's go back a bit to the 12 evil men. Do you have any names that people that you met, these monsters, can you name some of them?
sure. Well, certainly the Dulles brothers, John Foster Dulles, Alan Dulles, Sidney Gottlieb, the chief poisoner of the CIA. This man, this is George White. He's the man that my father sold me to, who then raped me and became my handler. I saw a lot of him.
Filthy pedo, ugly too. They're so ugly, aren't they?
Oh,
They're monsters, but they're always so ugly because evil shows itself like Soros and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and the little rat man Fauci. The evil cannot
man, he is a rat man,
rat man.
and this man, Ewan Cameron, who ran the MK Ultra programs in Montreal, was particularly evil, very evil. Uh, Richard Helms, who ran and protected programs after John Foster Dulles at the CIA, after Alan Dulles. From 1952 to 1962, he was chief of operations for the Directorate of Plans, which is where they put the MK Ultra program. And then in 1976, he was responsible for just, he claims he was responsible for destroying all the records so that anyone who'd been in the program would have no claim and could, if they were fortunate enough to survive with a brain, then they couldn't sue because he destroyed everything. Did he actually do that? I don't believe it for a minute.
Oh, it's not true. There's too many people who've come out with evidence, and there's too many documents that have now been leaked and are out in the public forum. So that's obviously not true. So bless
Charles Geschichter, here's another one.
Charles Grey shithead. So how many of these bastards are pedos as well? Filthy,
Oh,
dirty.
all of them. Yes, yes.
And that's another thing
And
to point out, my love, is that the fact that these monsters, their sick, insatiable desire for little tiny pure children, the absolute monstrosity of them, the dirty, filthy bastards who are in the depths of hell, most of them now, but live to harm so many children like you. Do you have any more monsters to show right there? I mean, that's
well,
a
certainly Mengele.
yeah.
Mengele was Dr. Green, and
What,
he was,
Dr. Green, you're saying?
yes, yes. And that's another thing about being the first, one of the first into the program, is that the head Dr. Green, uh, I was in his group as he was starting to plan this. I was one of his first victims, I'd say. But every annex had a Dr. Green, and all the Dr. Greens were German, and Mengele was the head of them. So, and they were all running off the programming from the experiments that were done in the concentration camps, and the book Mein Kampf. And Mein Kampf, as you know, was written by Hitler in the 1930s, published in Germany in the 1930s as I think, a periodical. And Alan McGregor Cranston, who became a U.S. senator and later ran for president, um, and who was my handler in California, he was a student at the University of Heidelberg in the 1930s. He got a hold of it, made a deal with Hitler, and he translated it into English, published it in the US with Stackpole Publishing. It went out as periodicals, and they made it like a propaganda push, and gave away millions of free copies throughout the United States. Hitler finally got a hold of the English version, had it translated back into German, realized that it wasn't anything that he'd actually said or written, and he sued Cranston and Stackpole Publishing in an American court and won. But this was like 1939, and the damage was done. And to this day, you cannot get your hands on a copy of MK of Mein Kampf, the actual book.
The original.
And the original, no. You can get Stackpole Publishing's translation, but that was Alan Cranston's CIA graduate project. So, but Cranston had the book, and Cranston would take groups of kids down to Mexico. When I lived in California, I was down there several times, and we would perform rituals from the book, and that would include what's it called? When you space travel through time and interdimensionally.
Astral projection.
Yeah, there's a word they use. It'll come to me. So it was opening portals, communicating with aliens, inviting aliens to like come into us. The reason they use children running around naked on the beach, I'm not exactly sure, but our role was to be the pure bodies that the aliens could come into. So, of course, a lot of drugs were involved, and the place that this was all done was called the Autonomous University of Mexico in Rosarita Beach. It's still there. At that time, it was a few trailers and a shed and an old abandoned church and a lot of orphanages. There are a lot of orphanages around there for no explicable reason why there are confined children around this place. That's still true. And a lot of them die. And I expect they're getting chromed and used in these rituals because that was going on. This would have been 1958. So this has been going on for 60 years. And
Think a lot of these children from that time to this time are the children that get, picked up in caravans in, war in
yeah,
places and go missing and then get trafficked down to. It's just horrendous. It's the worst conversation ever to have a conversation like this, and obviously to meet someone like you who's actually lived it. It's just, again, we need the evidence and the proof that this has existed because some people they're still like, my government would never do that, my president would never do that. Well, they did, they have, they did, and they are. It's still going on. These things that you're talking about are still happening.
yes.
In the programs, I've got like a little girl now being forced to run around naked in Rosarita Beach in Mexico with other children. Were there other children there that you stayed connected to or recognized going through life? No.
Well, yes, but I couldn't name them. I mean, that really wouldn't be fair. But we didn't stay connected to each other. We would be separated immediately after this happened and discouraged from interacting. Um, but there are people that survived that you would know, probably would recognize, but I wouldn't lay this on them.
Yeah.
Um,
And some of them will probably be potentially in public positions. Um,
yeah, and if they want to come forward, we can have the discussion like Kathy and I talk about it, and there are some others that come forward, and we meet and have discussions.
yeah.
But
Um, I know it's a difficult subject, but we've heard so much about the, adrenaline. And again, we have to put words in between because of the algorithm and then say the chrome part where they extract the red living liquid from a little child's body. And we are told that, first of all, they will torment the little person to spike the adrenaline, which gives the um, um, meat a better taste, or the blood itself a better taste. And you pointed to your left eye. And yes, so can you tell us what you remember, if that's okay? Is it okay to go there and see?
yeah, actually, you can see
Hold on. Okay. So what are we looking at?
you're looking at a cut, a line, and I had so many tubes and lines stuck up the inside of my nose and through the back of my sinus that when I was 33 years old, I developed a series of precancerous tumors that no one could explain. Now, I didn't remember my own past at that point, so I couldn't explain that, yeah, they were extracting adrenochrome from inside my head because you would go right up the nose, take a cannula, and go right up to the back of the ethmoid sinus. So I actually had to have my whole maxillary sinus removed and my ethmoid sinus removed because of tumors and just they couldn't explain what was going on. Now, now I know. Now I know what was going on. So I I could tell them. I probably didn't need the massive surgery. They were afraid it was a fast growing cancer. I think actually it was, now I realize it was inflammation from many, many sessions of adrenochrome extraction. Yeah. And they terrorize you. And again, the objective is you can make it stop by releasing your soul into the blood that they get.
What do
And
you mean by that?
this is all about soul extraction, and they want your soul. And so that is there any science to this? I doubt it. No, this is what the 12 evil men came up with. Um, so that's the theory that they can extract your youth if they can extract your soul. And they can take it, sell it for $250,000 on the dark web. You can look it up. It's for sale. Is it real or not? I don't know. Um, but you're commodifying selling souls.
Mhm.
This is the epitome of their objective is to destroy the human soul, is to possess it,
Yeah.
destroy another person's soul and take control of it. You know, like in aren't there characters in Harry Potter called soul eaters or something? Um, so it's something they've been working on since the Middle Ages, and
Yeah.
how I refuse to think about it because I don't want to remember.
No, so we'll move on. And that's fine. And thank you so much because I've actually never asked somebody on my channel who's actually remembering and has scar. And God love you and thank you so much. I know it's not easy. Going back a bit to the history of the bloodlines, etc. You mentioned your original family bloodlines. You also mentioned the Romanovs, the Russian royal family, the Romanovs, and people will remember how they ended up getting shot in a basement. Alexei and Nikolai and the girls Anastasia and all the rest of it. Could you give us the connection to the Romanovs that you started to share earlier?
Well, I'm actually not connected to the Romanovs except through the general European connection. I descend from the Rurikids. The Rurikids were the emperors, the much more successful. It was the dynasty that built Russia from 900 AD till the Romanovs took over in the 1500s. So the Rurikids were the Ruriks were this enormously successful, they were called Varangian uh, Russians, who were actually Scandinavian descent who came down the Volga River and settled in multiple settlements, which is another interesting story of how they chose those places. But they ultimately settled in Kiev. So they became the royal family of Rus based in Kiev. And then they defeated the Hazarians, which were a particularly aggressive um, pagan tribe who sacrificed children, drank blood, um, were obsessed with seizing people's souls. And the Rurikids, in response to this, went to Constantinople and became Christians. So Saint Olga of Kiev, who is my 32nd great grandmother, was she's called the equivalent of the apostles because she's responsible for Christianizing Russia at the end of the 10th century. And then her grandson was Saint Vladimir, who extended that Christianity and defeated the Hazarians and forced them. He wanted them to become Christianized. All the other tribes became Christianized, and Russia became one of the first most widely Christianized countries. You don't hear about that, but that's entirely true. And but the Hazarians were a very unique, tight knit um, group. There were about 500,000 of them, and Olga and Vladimir wanted them to decide if they were going to be Christian or Muslim, and they said no, we'll be Jewish. So that's the origin of the Ashkenazi Jews. Was right there a conflict between the Rurikids and the Khazarians, and so there's the origin of the Ukraine Jews, and a whole lot of the conflict that's going on right now is the same conflict.
Same
Uh,
conflict.
yeah, exactly the same. So the Ukrainian Jews are actually Hazarians. They're not Judean people. They're not Semitic people. They're Ukrainian people and indigenous Ukrainian people. And they have hated the Russians since the Rurikids defeated them in the year 1000.
You know, it's so fascinating, the history, and of course there'll be people yelling at the screen, yelling at you, yelling at me for having this conversation. Of course, we don't care. Bye bye,
It's
moving on.
pure history. They can look
Yeah.
it up.
But yeah, but again, history is redacted. History is written in the way that we are supposed to accept. Of course, we don't. And someone like you who knows the absolute history and the bloodline history, it makes it even more fascinating. When we talk about, you mentioned Kiev, which is in Ukraine. And when I
Mhm.
was growing up, it was always called Kiev. We have a dish here called chicken Kiev, which is a chicken in breadcrumbs and garlic and butter, and it's absolutely delicious. But moving forward, recently with the Ukraine war going on and Zelensky and all that circus and sadness for the people, God love them all and every child too. They've changed it to Kyiv. They now call it Kyiv, and things are changing as people redact, like the Bosnian Serbs, and now they've changed parts of Croatia, like Yugoslavia. They cover it up, they change everything. So, over a while, people forget the actual origin of a country, a city, a war, something that happened. It's constantly, constantly evolving. Even recently, when I returned from living in the States back to England, I noticed that the spelling of the country Turkey has
Oh
changed.
yeah, Czechia.
Yeah, and I'm like, am I imagining this? How come this is? But again, things are changing and happening. People putting their stamp on it. Now, the Monsters Club, the big boys club, they think they're big boys, but obviously they're getting taken down. They're getting a beating. Their names are being called out. They are being held accountable, whether they like it or not. It's happening. I think we're at a stage now. I largely encourage everyone that watches my channel or me to disobey, to not remotely respect anyone who puts himself in a high position. The self-anointed, self-appointed, as Kathy O'Brien always says.
Yes.
Yeah, because they have absolutely no right, nothing, no charm, no brains, no nothing. They have abused the power. They have harmed generations of families. They're still trying to do it with their Antwaki bullshit. And basically, they are being taken down and exposed. And that is what time it is. So there are a lot of people, again, will be yelling at the screen and stuff, but it's us women. Have you noticed that, Dr. Juliette Engel? It is us women who are the ones who are standing up, uniting, finding each other, and moving forward and mowing them all down and smushing them off to the side because we don't listen, we don't do as we're told, and we hold our ground and we hold our truth. And isn't it a wonderful time to be alive right now?
It's certainly an interesting time, and I'm very grateful that I got to live as long as I have. I mean, 76 years is has been long enough to see an arc of change
Yeah.
that's affected the entire world, not just my life, but the entire world. And being, I'm sorry, my diabetes. Okay, everything's going off at once.
Want to take a moment? Should we pause for a moment, my love?
Sure.
Hi there. So we just took a moment there and we were just saying that we are, everything that you're sharing is absolutely findable. It hasn't been redacted or hidden or stolen. You used a reference just a moment ago to me, Wikipedia. Oh, I call it Wikipedia. Wiki horrible.
Yeah,
I call it Wikipedia or Wicked pedophile because of all the dirty, filthy monsters not, being able to help themselves touch our babies, touch our children.
I'm
Over
glad you said that, really, because I have been permanently banned from Wikipedia. And the reason is that at in the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was a big push by the American State Department, who was funding groups that were pushing legalizing prostitution in Russia and reducing the child age of consent to like very, very low, to the point where you could no longer prosecute pedophiles. The same thing is now happening in this country, but at that time it was the Clinton people who were really pushing this hard, and I was on. Since I was the State Department grantee who was working on child trafficking, I was supposed to be on their side, but I was on the other side. I was fighting against that because it would just open the gates to the trafficking of Russian children and and an awful thing happened at that time. That was at that time Russia and Ukraine were pretty much indistinguishable. They were very close, all mixed together, predominantly Christian. The Hazarian group were in the southern part of Ukraine. So all of eastern Ukraine was very Russian. And however Moscow went, they all went. And so getting Moscow to pass laws for child protection, um, I did have a very strong influence on that and found myself in direct opposition to the US Embassy, to the Clinton Foundation, to George Soros. I mean, suddenly I was fighting IREX. These are the people that were sent to Russia to protect children. I said, you aren't protecting children, you know. The worst thing you can do is drop the age of consent. And so we fought and fought and fought, and the Russians refused to drop the age of consent and passed some very good anti-trafficking laws, which all the Russian population, Russian-speaking population, adopted in their regions, and this made me an enemy of the U.S. State Department. And I had a delegation. Up to that point, I was in Wikipedia because I was doing some pretty significant stuff. And so at that point, they actually sent a delegation to my office and they said, you know, either you change what you're saying or you will never be in Wikipedia. And I said, I'm not going to change anything and I don't care about Wikipedia. So I am not in Wikipedia.
Wow.
You can find your dog's chicken in Wikipedia, but you'll never find me.
It's come to pass that Wikipedia is actually nothing to be proud of because they've bastardized it and they abuse it, and anybody can actually hack it and write anything they want in it. And two of my friends, Kathy O'Brien and Dr. Christiane Northrup, Dr. Christiane Northrup is globally
Yes, I know
known.
her. Yeah.
You know her too, yeah? So she spoke
Mm-hmm.
at my last two conferences. Amazing, amazing lady. Such a brave woman and forthright, leading edge in gynecology and birthing and
Mm-hmm.
natural birthing and all these great things that obviously their arse hats at the top want to shut down and want to own. Like a man could ever in his entire life understand what it's like for a woman to have periods, to have a womb, to give birth, to be pregnant. It's not possible at all unless it's a trans man who's been a woman who's had a womb, right? Because obviously that's
Mm-hmm.
the only way you can transition. You then have become a trans man, but you are still a biological woman, but you might have some bits removed and some bits added on. But your formal biology is obviously woman to man. That's the only possible way. And people get very upset. I remember growing up and meeting these ghastly, gynecologist men, and always being so disturbed by an arrogance, by a coldness, and apart from one that operated on me, I had some serious situations growing up, blah blah. And I no longer have a womb, but that's all right. But a lot of women go through so much trauma. But it's just so interesting that the things that we're supposed to adopt as children and grow up and accept. Not that I love men. I love, love, love men. But I have my own voice and my own mind, as you do. And if I want to say something against the medical establishment that men shouldn't be in positions because they couldn't possibly understand, then I jolly well will. And I just did. So there. So we'll move on I want to take a step back to as little kids and doing experiments in terms of opening portals and calling in aliens. And it seemed like you were saying that you would allow children were encouraged to allow ETs, aliens, to enter their bodies. Is that correct? And can you give us more information on those happenings, please?
Um, there were rituals that were performed on the beach every night, and it involved uh, calling aliens and bringing them in through portals and bringing them in through your body and becoming permanently connected. And and I have to say that as children doing this because there were probably 20 of us, and we were encouraged to do this and to uh, call out to the aliens, and I can say that one of the things about having the dissociative identity, they call it disorder, but it isn't a disorder. It's what they did to format our brains so that we don't format as a singleton, we format as multiple compartments. So you can run several compartments at once, and I usually run many compartments at once, and they're not all. Some of the compartments are psychic, and some of them are you can be on multiple planes at the same time. I think that's true for singletons too. It's just that for us, it's segmented, and so we would be rewarded for doing this. So if we wanted to eat, basically, they'd be cooking on the beach, and Pat Brown would be in a Speedo swimsuit cooking delicious smelling stuff that we wouldn't get to eat unless we put on a good show and um, and did the let the aliens in and manifested. So I can't tell you if what I was doing was actual or I was putting on a show or um, they were giving us drugs. They were all taking drugs. Um, so I wouldn't call it reliable scientific experimentation. We did something. I think there's no doubt about that. I think that it is possible to open portals. I don't think you have to do it as a big show. I think you can do it just sitting there. Beaches are nice, but I think that was part of the show. I think you can do it anywhere, and time travel, travel in time, and travel in space is is all doable. And when you do it and you come back, you'll have entities in you and or with you. They're in your space. There's so much more. We're not just this clump of cells. We've got the electric, energetic body around us. So we're a much bigger, more complex space. And I recently saw a fascinating study that was originated in Siberia, Novosibirsk, studying the human genome. And theoretically, we only use 2% of our genome. And that 2% is used to create all the proteins that create our body, monitor our body, take care of the physical body. The other 98% is uh, theoretically is like wasted. It's our genetic code, but we're not using it. I don't think that's true at all. I think we're using all of it, and that the energetic body that we are is much bigger, and the interactions with multiple dimensions are all there.
Yeah,
It's just that you may not be able to put it into English.
exactly. Do you remember doing time travel? Can you share some of
Oh
the
yeah.
beliefs?
Yes. Yeah, it and there the problem is putting it in English, you know. Language is very limiting, and there are other forms of communication. So yeah, all of this went on, but it's not practical as a human being to do these things. Um, so I would say that it's, in fact, I have tried a couple of times just meditating and going out, which is what you have to do to like open the portal and start going. The trouble is you can keep going. So I think it's a way of dying because when the energetic body goes out of your physical body, it's one thing to do it all from your energy connections, and I see it like octopus arms coming out of our genetic code that says so much and reads so much and sees so much and but if you get into actually transporting your energetic body, which is how you communicate with like other energy beings, then it can be very dangerous because your energy body can leave. And I've had the situation where I've gotten out too far and no one around me has any idea what's going on. So it's not like anyone can help. And by the time I get back in, my body temperature's low and I'm physically ill and sick for 2 weeks. So it's very hard on the physical body. So I haven't, um, you can try it. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to stimulate it, but you do get entities clinging to you that stay with you. And
So what did you
I,
see for it? Let's say that you were trying to, as a child on drugs, you've been given ideas of opening a portal or connecting to aliens. Was it grey aliens? Like, what did you actually see? Any memories of what you actually believe you saw?
well, that's it. You don't see two-dimensional, three-dimensional objects. You're seeing other energetic bodies, and you're not seeing them. You're sensing them on your with your energetic body, which doesn't have a form. So, in terms of saying I met gray aliens, probably, but did they walk around and wear shoes? No, they were in other energetic spaces. It's like requires a language that we don't have, but we do have it. It's just that communicating it in a two-dimensional space is that's why they that's why you do drawings of things like they wanted to like the like your friend Dr. Fauci wanted to scare the population with a virus that probably never even actually existed and no one has ever seen. In fact, I don't know if anyone's ever seen any virus. Uh, so he needed something to scare people. So they probably had a big advertising company with $1 million budget, probably the same ones that rebranded Cracker Barrel and Bud Light and said, okay, draw us something really scary. So they created this little round thing with all the spicules. No one's ever seen that. That's not a real thing. That's a creation.
Well, people seem to forget that it originated in a lab in Wuhan. And if you follow the money, apparently it was funded by Gates, Obama, and the rat man Fauci, and others, of course. So, like, go figure, like, people forget we get amnesia, but that's also programming. That's massive.
Programming. Yeah. And
Like, oh,
actually, and and
hypnotized,
the
we're all hypnotized.
and the whole concept of viruses and mRNA came from the 50s from the lab run by Sidney Gottlieb, who looked at mRNA not as a vaccine, but as a bioweapon. It was developed as a bioweapon, and this was in the 1950s. So the whole scary thing, and boy, try to talk people out of taking the poison is was lost me most of my I'd say friends, but yeah, people I was associated with, groups I was in. So I've been kicked out of Wikipedia and kicked out of groups because absolutely refused to take that vaccine and really did everything I could to encourage people not to take it and to not believe in that stupid little spiky ball like that is actually something.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and obviously people were getting sick, very, very sick, and people did pass away from
well,
something.
they got the flu probably. And what is the flu? They could do a scary drawing, do a scary flu, give it scary eyes, and yeah, of course, there are things that kill people, but it doesn't necessarily look like the little crown. And mRNA is not a vaccine.
Yeah, a lot of again misinformation and scare tactics, and but obviously, whatever was released, took a swathe of people away with it, and it's tragic. And I have compassion for people who had no felt they had no control, and for people that did actually take, like even close friends of mine, a close family have taken it. So it's like,
Oh, it was a massive, massive psyop and a crime against humanity. The people who deliberately imposed that on innocent people. And it's one of the worst things that humanity has ever done. And this will become obvious, more obvious as we move forward. But but it's the same group. You go back to the same 12 evil men.
yes,
And who was running the technical services division of the CIA? It was Sidney Gottlieb. And who was the primary scientist developing mRNA bioweapons? It was uh, it was Sidney Gottlieb in the 50s. So we've got so much evil coming from such a small group.
Well, if you look at the reset, right? So there was a reset before, early 1900s, for example, mid 1800s, etc. All the information that's missing from that time, and a reset.
Yeah.
Talk about Tartaria and the beautiful monolithic buildings that you couldn't make today, but we're told hammer and chisel. I mean, it's so boring. We keep talking about the same thing because there's a massive amount of information that's still missing, or enough people haven't yet come together to put it together to make it concise so we can actually accept it. But that little fat twat, Klaus Schwab, the clown Schwab, I call it. And of course, these monsters that they've raised their psychopathic children, I have an element of compassion for the children, now adults, because they've gone through terrible things similar to you, but none in terms of those who know what they're doing. They know what they're doing to us, to humanity, so they can
They
balk.
don't care. They don't care. They've had the
They
compassion.
don't feel, there's no soul, there's no heart, there's no feeling.
Mhm.
But there's a desperation for another reset. And that is a massive depopulation agenda that is putting everybody in a controlled environment. Of course, it's failed already. We're just fighting the last smatterings of it and trying to wake people up to the plan that was to create yet another reset. And Klaus Schwab wrote his book, The Great Reset. And I haven't bothered reading it. And his little rat man beside him, Harari, Vavar Harari, whatever his name is, that little short little ass. Again, no respect whatsoever, nothing. They are the dogs of hell, and the scourge and the disease on our planet. And again, people should not authorize themselves to obey, to worship, to respect a second, and so the science community grow up to the science community that's so arrogant. I call it academic snobbery, that they get all puffed up and carried away with this thesis and that white paper and this and that. And it's absolute bollocks. We've got to come from the heart, from the soul, from love, from care for our brothers and our sisters, because we have people like you, from a little tiny girl to an adult, who've seen the inner mechanics, and you were in a bloodline family trapped and raised historically. And here you are, thank God for you, reporting information and dropping pieces of our actual history, into the mix, like into the field. And it's just incredible. And yeah, I do get a bit passionate. No, make no apology for it. But
Don't apologize.
I'm so happy I saw you. I'm so happy I found you. I'm so happy that you're blessing my channel and the beautiful audience that will see this with your, and I'm fighting back tears at the same time as well, because I'm always bloody crying. I can't help it. I get so angry when I think about, what children like you have gone through. And survive to bring to the fourth. I wanted to step back to 6 years old and the ritual, unfortunate ritual, where you're seeing your monstrous father, and at that moment you realize that there's no one in the world for you, who's ever going to come and get you. And there are so many people watching who have felt that. I have felt that myself, that actual thought, a different scenario, but that actual thought. And you don't know, you want to be dead, but you can't be dead because you're so little. You don't know how to kill yourself. You don't even know that suicide's an option. You're just stuck in this nothingness. But for you, from that moment, how did little Juliette, and was that your name growing up? Was it Juliette growing up?
Hmm. Yes.
So how did little tiny Juliette, from that moment, actually survive?
Uh, I just refused to die. I refused to give up my soul. I was determined to get out of there. Uh, and I had my grandmother had taught me the Lord's Prayer,
Mm.
and I had that. And I said that every day. And I set out my life to find God and to hold on to my soul, and to hold on to my brother who was younger than me. And and since I don't still there's a lot I don't remember, uh, it was just a determination to get out. And I knew if I didn't get out that I would become a sex slave. Actually, I was headed for the same program that Kathy was stuck in, and I was about to become a uh, a spy and a sex object for the government, and that's what she was trapped in until Mark got her out, and I knew I was going to have to get myself out as fast as I could. So I did escape when I was 17. I escaped from I stole a car and went to the University of Washington because and that was a scary thing to do because I'd been told all my life that I was stupid and had no talent, and if I tried to go on my own, I would fail and die and be poor and sick and blah 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 blah. So it's like the world of completely devoid of positive reinforcement. So like getting kicked off Wikipedia compared to that is like, oh, who cares?
Yeah, you know what's important. So what was your situation? Where were you living? How did you manage to get to 17? Were you still living at home with mom and dad? Did you have memories? Were you still being harmed at 17?
Yeah. Yes, I was half the time in the annexes or being shipped around to different places. I didn't always know where I was. And the other half the time I was with my family and we would be in a different place every 6 months. And so all over the United States and in Canada and in Mexico. And so I didn't have any permanent close attachments to any of those places. Um, and when I got myself to Seattle, I'd gotten my high school behind me. I One thing I'd learned in the MK Ultra program was how to do a like a psyop. So I did a psyop in my high school and on my parents and on my father's boss and used all my sex magic skills and got myself into the University of Washington at the age of 17. But then I had to get from California to the University of Washington and pay for it and get myself some clothes because I didn't have anything and get myself books. And it's in Sparky. It's like that had to be God that helped me put that together because I escaped in my handler's car with him in it. He'd passed out on God knows what drugs, and he was unconscious in the car. And I stole it and drove myself up the coast of Oregon with no shoes, no purse, no license, no money, no nothing. And but I found he'd been selling LSD out of his car in Monterey, and uh, so he had a big wad of $5 bills. I mean, it's a big chunk of $5 bills. So I took that. And he had a car absolutely filled with green stamps. And they don't do green stamps anymore, but you used to get that. Everything you bought, groceries, anything, you would get green stamps. You put them in books. And I got luggage, towels, clothes, sheets, everything I needed. I got with the hundreds of thousands of green stamps that he had in his car. So that's how I started university, and I bought my books and paid my tuition with the cash roll.
So did you leave the car and him unconscious on the side of the road or in a car park somewhere and then take a bus to the
Yeah,
university?
Yeah. Yes, I did. I left him in Oregon and took a bus the rest of the way to Washington. Once I had money, I could buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Grants Pass.
Come after you.
I don't. I I don't because from that point on, I forgot it all.
Yeah.
So when I showed up at the University of Washington in my new outfit and started university looking like everyone else, and you start college, nobody cares about anything except you. It's a fresh start. It's a reset. So looking back, they must have.
Mhm.
I A number of things happened after that couldn't have happened otherwise. Plus, I wound up in the center of the tech revolution in Seattle in the 1980s. I mean, I was at the opening of Starbucks Coffee. I knew Bill Gates before he stole software off the shelves at Egghead software store and turned it into Microsoft. You know, um, I knew Costco. I knew them, the Al Hadafs who started Costco. I mean, I was in this tight little group who formed all this
Go back to Bill
evil.
Gates, please. Please don't skip over that big monster. Tell us what you just said there. What's this egghead software like? Tell us what you were starting to say there, please.
Well, in Seattle, it was where the software revolution started. And at the very beginning, everybody was doing their own coding, and I was doing coding too, because there wasn't any other way to do it. And a group of optimistic programmers had put together a store called Egghead Software, and they were like giving out. They weren't licensing anything. They just wanted everyone to have free access to the internet and free software that would let you code and create the images from coding. And Bill Gates, who I don't think has ever coded anything in his life, stole it and didn't make any bones about it, but he took it from Egghead. And Egghead said, "You can't take this and sell it as Microsoft. We're giving it away for free." And he said, "Well, you didn't patent it, did you?" And so he just took it and started the campus in Redmond, Redmond, Washington, which is not far from where I lived at the time. And that was the beginning of Microsoft. And Atari started from Seattle, and the ultrasound empires, Bristol Myers Squibb took off from Seattle. So all of this started in this environment that I was in the middle of. So uh, until I left for Russia, which was 1990. So that's on to another
Another great journey.
another whole
Absolutely.
story.
All right. So I think this has just been absolutely a roller coaster and so much rich information for humanity via your horrific, horrendous experiences, which is amazing. But this is again how we learn, how we as a humanity come to understand reality in what it was and the mechanics of it, the machinery, the system that we're in. It's people like you that pave the way, like truly paved the way. 76 years young, beautiful, strong, powerful, and an amazing mind and heart and soul and spirit, and I look forward to receiving your book this week. Like I said, as soon as I saw you, I went researching what books you'd written and saw Sparky and thought I'm going to start with that one. Can you hold it up again to show people, even if it is reading backwards, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
Yeah. So Sparky. So read the cover for us, please. What does it say?
It says Sparky Surviving Sex Magic. And I put that on there because I don't want anybody buying this and thinking it's appropriate for children because it's not. So the Sex Magic is the program, the MK Ultra program that I was in, and and Sparky was and creating the world that I lived in, which was outside of my own body, which is where Sparky was and where Sparky lived as a Sparky's a child Scottish warrior who's I mean it's the identity that I created at the age of 10 and then became for the rest of my life. So it's like it was my personal reset when I chose to fight the terrible situation that I was in to get out of it and what kind of person I was going to be. And so I became Sparky and stayed Sparky. I'm still Sparky.
Um,
So
so she's a survival part of you.
yeah, so I think it's I wanted to write the book as a child. So I took myself back into magical thinking and wrote it as I lived it. Because it's one thing to go back as an adult and say, okay, well, yeah, I was dissociating here and magical thinking and this, that, the other thing, all the diagnoses. But how was it to be in that, in the middle of it? So I'm in it. And I don't know if you can see this. I had something else I wanted to show you, but we need to talk again after you read it.
Yes, we will. We absolutely will. And then I can also share with our beautiful audience the work, the incredible work you're doing and have done, and the systems and the organizations that you set up. And it is just absolutely, it's just mind blowing that you have survived and that who you be in this moment on this planet. And like I said, I'm so proud to have met you and have you. And thank goodness I was able to reach you easily. You know, that's a to me that's divine orchestration. That's
That
the
was because I'm not easy to reach under normal circumstances.
yeah.
Usually takes people a lot of work, but that just happened. Well, please give my love to Kathy and uh, have a wonderful conference. When is your conference? When is your?
It's the 19th of September and
Oh,
the 21st. And on the 19th, we will be bringing in beautiful, benevolent, physical spacecraft. We do it every single conference. And one of the reasons why I'm doing my disclosure conference, as you know, it's about every single subject, the satanic warfare, the bloodlines, the monsters, everything, science, education, music, ET.
Star Forts.
Yeah, starports. I mean, everything. It's to tell humanity the truth of everything. And it's important that because when we bring in the spacecraft, I like to think that the monstrous monsters that we mentioned that harmed you children, who are now adults and some children still obviously still going through these things, that they don't have the last say, that they don't have power over the good, benevolent extraterrestrials who are working with the White Hats, with the Earth Alliance. And we proved that just in May 10th in England. We brought over a fleet of craft. And then we also, a beautiful advanced military craft made by the Navy, a TR-9, flew over the crowd, showing that they are working together. And to me, that's this to the whole system, the whole evil bastards establishment. Like you think you've got power, you don't have power. The power's been taken from you. Some of them are a bit slow, with their obviously degenerate remedial minds. We used to have a cruel thing at school. If a child seemed a bit of a dimwit, which I was one of those, we'd call them Remy for remedial, and it was always so mean, and or call them a retard or whatever. That's more American though. And now I take joy in my mind, apportioning those awful words to the Newsom and Pelosi and all these
Oh, yes.
top them with their degenerate brains, and the Clintons, and to me, they're the retards, they're the retarded ones, the remedial minds. They think they're brilliant, the pedos. And look at George Bush Sr. and what he did as a pedo to little Kelly, Kathy O'Brien's baby girl. I don't care that he's dead. People like him who are dead and done these terrible things, we will speak your name. People say, don't speak ill of the dead. Well, we're going to. And
Yeah.
have, because just
Count me in on that.
uh,
Count me in. I agree with that completely.
yeah, they don't get away with it. They don't get to be whatever. No, no, you done wrong. You're going to stand trial, and we, the people, will make sure that you do. And again, to not obey authority, not respect the people that put themselves in positions. It's so interesting as well with the presidents. Like, people don't seem to understand. They are bought and paid for. It is decided. It was always decided. Their votes don't count for one single thing, do they?
Nope, it's the 12 Evil Men. That's going to be the name of my next book
Oh,
because it all boils down to a little nasty core that we have to get rid of.
brilliant. All right, my love. Well, let me just ask you for a final thought on this broadcast that we've done today before we have you come back in a week or two. What would you like to say to the beautiful people who some will be upset and disturbed by your testimony, but what would you say to people?
I don't know why you'd be upset with my testimony, and I don't see why people are upset with the idea of us not being the only people in the universe or the energetic body or the um, that we understand even very little about ourselves and our place here. Um, I don't understand why anybody is upset with that. You should be digging into learning and studying and opening your mind and opening your soul, using your soul. And if it's been taken from you or damaged, then you should be focusing on healing it. And there's a lot of work going on, and certainly Kathy is at the center of a lot of that with her work with PTSD. That's healing. Those are injured souls. That's healing souls. And when we're healed, then um, our true capacity will come to light. And so I have so much more to talk about. This was just sort of like the preliminary skim. I would like to say that I've spent my life seeking out and walking around star forts. Before the drones came out, nobody could even recognize these structures that are all over our world. But I've been around dozens and dozens of them all, all over the world, and I don't understand that. And I would like to talk to other people who had that, maybe that same pull. But if you look at the Rurikids, where did they settle? Where did they start? The Russian Empire. They went from Starfort to Starfort to Starfort. These were already there when they came in their ships in the year 900. So that's they were on that tipping point of the reset of history from, we could call it Tartaria or other unexplained civilizations that were here before us. Anyway, that's a little venture into the next level, which is a lot of it's beyond English.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And, when I refer to some people will be upset, they'll be sad for you. It will have wounded them to see you and meet you and feel your frequency and feel your heart and listen to you, and they'll have such compassion, because as you know, Kathy O'Brien is a regular here, Rachel Vaughan in Australia, Max Lowen, from America, who talks about the Vatican and what happens during it, through it, and underneath it, who's also speaking at my conference next week. These beautiful women, again, it's the women, it's us women who are rising up and joining and unifying and coming forward and making sure that we mother and we love and we nurture humanity as much as we are able, and bring information that can help people heal, because it is time to heal, most definitely, isn't it?
Yes, we need to do it for our own survival as a species. We need to heal, and we're running out of time.
So tell us how we can get hold of you. What is the easiest website to reach you for people that would like to connect with you and see your work?
Just Google my name and my website, which is www.julietteengel.com, will come up, and my books will come up, and you can reach me through my website, which is how Danny reached me. And so there's a lot of information there, and Danny will post the you'll post the link to National Security Archive, because anybody that is wondering about their own past, about their why they don't remember their childhood, why their mother is a complete blank, or whatever, is a surprising number of people, or people that participated in the GAT program, GATE. They've got a lot of questions, and so go look at that. And I'm out there, and Kathy's out there, and others are out there telling people that if you see yourself in that program, and there's at least 300,000 Americans who've been in that program. So if you start recognizing yourself, go carefully, because the first thing you'll hit is a suicide program. You won't know it's there. It was put in so that you wouldn't reveal their secrets. And if you know it's there, you'll know to like slow it down and start working with a professional, or just taking the memories a little bit at a time and understand what you're dealing with, and cut off that guard dog. So do it. You won't heal until you do it, but do it carefully, because they've got a snare set for you.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, that's a huge, huge subject. And again, we can cover more of that trigger.
Yes, Kathy and I should maybe
Yeah, I could
talk
bring,
about that together.
yeah, kill switches. A lot of people have unfortunately had those inserted, but there is a way to overcome, to heal, to release, to survive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we hope to bring more information. Well, again, Dr. Juliette Engel, it's a blessing. Thank you so much. You are beautiful and you're an honor. I'm honored to have you here and look forward to your return. Thank you so much. And we're going to say something else?
No, I was just going to say thank you, Danny.
You're welcome. And to the audience, the beautiful audience, again, there are those of you who have endured similar atrocities to Dr. Julia Engel, and I know that this will bring you strength and support and comfort, witnessing somebody again who has survived, who has overcome, who has written books to bring support and information. So go kindly, go lovingly with yourselves. And I am Danny Henderson, and I do send you love from my heart to yours, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Dr. Juliet.
You're welcome.